Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Chaos Within podcast. I almost forgot where I was.
That's bad. We're starting off real good today. Good.
Episode 8.
8. Wow, almost double digits.
Yep. We're doing great. Last episode, we didn't go quite viral as we wanted to, but we are on the right track.
Yes, I guess. What happened with the last episode?
I forgot to send it to people out there that handle viral stuff. So that's my fault.
Damn.
Yeah.
We just got to get Mr. Beast on speed dial. It's fine.
I was trying to send it to Mr. Beast. I was trying to get in contact with Bluey because I know he's hip with the kids. That didn't work out too well. I just went unresponded to it. Then I also meant to send it to the executives at Nickelodeon, but I forgot. So
we'd have to slime you probably for them to care.
That's what I was trying to go for. I was like, hey, like if you get this out, next episode we'll do slime. That's fine.
On you, not me. I've been terrorized enough this last week.
I mean, you might have had to be included into it. So
Oh yeah, no, we're not doing that.
Well, on this episode, we are going to be talking about a couple of things. We're going to talk about Pokemon. We're going to be talking about some studio shutdowns. We're going to be talking about some indie games. Yeah. So, before we go any further, because we all over the place in episodes where we do this, because it's supposed to be at the beginning.
Yeah.
We are on YouTube. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music. We are on iHeartRadio. Yes. I gotta stop looking confused every time I fix that or finish that. Yeah.
I think that's just how you look. You're just confused. All right.
Confused, man. It's hard out here, man. It's hard.
Yeah.
I'm old.
Sure.
So, Pokémon Presents happened.
Yes.
A day of the week this past week.
Yeah.
And some things were announced.
The 27th? February 27th.
I don't know what date
it was on February 27th. Yes.
A day of the week.
That's fine. So there were a lot of really awesome announcements on this one. I think the one that's kind of first and foremost on everyone's mind is Pokemon Champions, which I know, John, you're super excited about. So why don't you talk us through that one a little bit more?
Well, Pokemon Champions, it looks like, and it was said to be a spiritual successor to Pokemon Stadium. And I love those series of games for Pokemon Stadium, Pokemon Coliseum. There's one more out there that I can't remember at the time, but I love Pokemon Coliseum. That was on GameCube. That was my jam. So when I saw this, and I was like, "Oh, really?" And then it is Switch, and it's also on mobile. Which when they said it was on mobile,
it's on everything.
Exactly.
Like it's gonna be part of Pokemon Home. So that's like
you got that home part.
So no, Pokemon. So it's a cloud service for Nintendo Switch and mobile devices. So you can use it everywhere, basically.
Gotcha.
And it has older Pokemon games on it too.
Outside of that, right?
Not Pokemon games, older Pokemon. Yeah, go ahead.
Outside of that, it's been a long time since I touched a Pokemon game, I'll be honest. So I played Pokemon Go for a little while. That was fun walking around New York City trying to catch Pokemon. That was a great time when everybody was doing it.
It was a different time. They tricked us into exercise. It's crazy.
I know, right? And it was working. It was working. I definitely was walking around the park trying to catch a Pikachu one time. A couple people was like, "Yo, you do the same thing? Yeah, like let's try this together. Meet random people. That's how you talk to strangers."
Ooh, talking to strangers, no. But I'm excited about it. I loved Pokemon Stadium. That was an incredible game. So I know that this is gonna be really exciting. I think it's also really cool that they're finding a new and innovative way for us to play it. So I'm wondering if there's gonna be anything that you get a little bit extra if you're playing this game mobile. Like, is it gonna combine some of the concepts of Pokemon Go? We'll see. So I'm really excited to see how that one comes along. And I feel like that was probably the biggest announcement from that, aside from, I know Pokemon Legends Z-A is coming out. It's supposed to be releasing end of 2025. It says late. So when I see late, I always assume end, especially with how games have been getting pushed back left and right. Although Pokemon typically doesn't do that. They're like, when they're announcing stuff is because they're ready. They know. They're on their timeline. They know their timeline's going to hit, which is fantastic. So I'm really excited about that one. I know this one's going to be a little bit different because in the older games, everything was very turn-based. So like your Pokemon would take its turn, then their Pokemon would take its turn, and back and forth. And in this one, for the first time, you're going to have real-time decision-making during the battle. So you'll be able to choose when the actual attack goes off. So it's going to be a little bit more nuanced, and you're going to have there's going to be a little bit more skill involved with it. So I think that's going to actually be really cool. Let's see. Oh, and then there's also the option for the Mega Evolutions as well. So sometimes that might be how you win the matches. And they're cool looking.
Even though it's been a while since I've played Pokemon, like I do like the concept of Mega Evolutions. I mean, even like even like the show Pokemon, I jumped back into that just to see Ash. I think it was a big thing when Ash finally won a Pokemon championship, and I definitely hopped back and I was like, my man. I was like, I knew it. I knew it. I mean, you may still be 13 years old for whatever reason, but
for decades,
you did it. It's like if you can do it, I can do it too.
And then it turns out that he's a grown man with some kind of condition that makes him look 13 forever, probably. That's really the secret backstory of Ash. He's actually 45 now. Just kidding. Let's see. Other awesome stuff coming. I guess there's going to be another season of the Pokemon Concierge that's going to be coming in September. I think probably the biggest news in all of this, though, is that they're now adding in additional language support for Latin American Spanish, which means that these games are going to be accessible to people who never really had that access before, because they were playing it, but they weren't playing it in a language that they understood most likely. So there's going to be millions more people now having access to Pokemon, which I think is incredible. And while there is specifically Latin American Spanish, I feel like any Spanish speakers will be able to pick up the context enough to still be able to play and enjoy the game. So I'm excited for that. There's a lot of really cool stuff happening there. And it's Pokemon. Pokemon's always big. Like... I can think back to my childhood, coming home from school and sitting down in front of the TV and watching two things, Pokemon and Sailor Moon, every day. I've had all the games. I think the first Pokemon game I had was probably on my lime green Game Boy Color. I remember picking Pikachu because Pikachu's amazing, and I think that's the only option you really had in that Pokemon version. Pokemon, was it yellow? Was it gold? Can't remember.
Yellow?
Yeah, I think it was yellow. Most recent.
You also had Pikachu as an option in that.
Yes. So, and then I remember the most recent Pokemon game I played was actually with Rick. We played Scarlet and Violet. So we each had one version of the game. We played it together, and we would swap off whatever Pokemon that we couldn't get in one version or the other. Because, these games, there's always Pokemon you can only get in a certain version of the game. That's just how it works. That's how they either get you to play with somebody else or they get you to get both versions. We just got smart and played it together this time. So I'm excited. It's always exciting.
The last Pokemon I played was Diamond and Pearl, and that was on the DS.
Dang, that was a while ago too.
That was the last one that I played. Like up until that point, I was on every one. Red and Blue, Yellow, Leaf Green, Fire Red. Love those. Ruby and Sapphire. Have fun with that. Fun story. When I worked at my last job, I had a coworker. Shout out to you, Joey. What we used to do for work is we worked on computers. We made a disk with all the Pokemon games on it, and literally for like a solid 2-3 weeks, all we did was play Pokemon. Go through all the games one by one. We're just playing it. Who could get through it faster? That's how we consume time. Somebody's gonna look at that and be like, "That's what y'all did this whole time." Yep. Sorry, exposed.
Too late now.
They're gonna fire us. Shh.
Okay. So exciting news in the world of Pokemon. Feel free to drop in the comments. What part are you guys most excited about as we continue forward through this episode? Because I feel like everybody's got different things they're excited about most when it comes to Pokemon things. I think there was some card game news too, but I'm so far removed from the Pokemon card game. I don't think I ever played it. I just collected the cards because I thought they were cool.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
I might have been too young at the time.
You too young?
It's a weird concept.
So, on to next piece of news in the world. Let's go roller coaster. Let's go down. So we had two big announcements. WB shut down a whole bunch of studios. I mainly only want to talk about two things regarding that, and that is the shutdown of Monolith Studios. That was the studio that was making the Wonder Woman game. And I want to say that we spoke it into existence because we spoke about Wonder Woman on a previous podcast episode. So, you know,
are we powerful?
Exactly. Somewhere deep down, this is our fault. I mean, there was something else we spoke into existence on another podcast episode as well. I can't remember what it was, but they just.
I'm gonna manifest a lottery win, please. If my words have power, lottery. Thank you. Go ahead.
With WB, I just feel like they're a company that's just like they don't know what they're doing. Like they just, I don't know. Like they another studio that was part of all three studios that were shut down is Monolith, Player First Games, and WB San Diego. WB San Diego was supposed to be a mobile gaming thing, but I don't really think they ever actually released something. It hasn't been around that long. I think in total, like maybe 5 years, maybe 6. It's been around.
That's enough time to make something, though.
Yeah, and I feel like they became more of a support studio in that time, but nothing that I saw officially came out from there. And then you have Player First Games, which created Multiverses. Multiverses was supposed to be the WB version of Super Smash Brothers, but I feel like that came and went because I feel like it was very popular when it came out as in beta form, but then when it officially came out, nobody really cared. So there's that. And then with the main one I wanted to talk about is Monolith, because that Wonder Woman game was definitely I was excited for it. I think a lot of people were actually excited for it. And it was it's interesting how that just came out of nowhere. And then also, other reason is because of a game called Shadow of Mordor. WB created, not even Monolith, created a very interesting system in that game called the Nemesis system. I don't know if you've heard of the Nemesis system.
This is unfamiliar to me, so you have to tell me.
So the Nemesis system basically in Shadow of Mordor is, let's say you came across some random orc, because that's, I believe, Lord of the Rings that deals in. So you could fight him. He can either escape, you could kill him, or maybe he kills you. But if he escapes, he leaves, and somewhere later in the game, he may come back stronger with an army of people. He may come back, have this whole different dynamic going on. Or if you kill him, he could be reincarnated into another being and still come for you. And greater level, and you have, that's your nemesis at the end of the day. It's a very interesting system. I know I'm not explaining it entirely correct, but it's only been in those, I believe there was 2 games in that series, Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor and Middle-earth Shadow of War. And there's a patent that WB put on it, so nobody else can use it. So I am kind of wondering, since Monolith doesn't exist anymore, what are they going to do with that? Because at this moment, nobody can use it until 2036, I believe, is the year, because of the patent. I feel like it's stupid to hog a system like that, especially with other games out there that can.
You could make so much money licensing access to it,
exactly. And it's like Assassin's Creed tried to do a system that's like that within which one was it? Odyssey, Valhalla, and
the open world games.
Yeah, the Egypt one. I can't remember the Egypt one.
Mirage?
No, not the first one. Bayek.
Oh.
That one. Yeah, the one with Bayek. We'll go with that. They do a.
Oh, that's gonna make me crazy.
I know, right? It's not coming to mind right now. But it's like the cover is in my. It's in my.
Yeah, it's like in your brain.
I just can't remember the name. Yeah, they tried to do something similar to it, but it doesn't land the same. If Ubisoft, specifically Assassin's
Origins
Creed system, There you go, Origins. Ubisoft got, it's like, hey, they licensed that out to them, let them do that, and I just think, hey, Assassin's Creed would have been a perfect platform to experiment.
It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense if you really think about it, because I mean, it makes sense for a lot of different games, but the process makes sense. Like, if you fight somebody and you beat the brakes off them, but they barely manage to escape, of course they're going to be like, I'm going to get strong and I'm going to punch that person dead in the mouth and I'm going to finish this. Like, I think that was something that was really interesting. Like, in a way, that's something that kind of plays out in D&D campaigns. Like, you'll have some kind of beef with someone, like I did in my character's build. I had a demon lord that was like, I'm gonna come get you later, and they did get me later, and they cut my head off and they left. They took my head with them, and then later on in the story we meet my head with another body attached to it. It was not as smart as me at the level that I was at, because they had like a previous version of me and it didn't have all the things that I had, but it was still physically very strong and very hard to fight. And because I was locked in a force cage, I couldn't help. So like, they banished it and it disappeared again. But that's something that just makes sense for a story. Like, if you fight somebody and they survive, if there's an option for them to survive, because you can't win every fight, that doesn't make any sense. It makes sense for them to come back later. So I hate that they patented that. That feels so dumb.
Yeah.
They should be licensing it to people. That's why WB's not making enough money to keep studios open.
And making these dumb decisions with games, but that's
it's not just games though. I feel like their biggest stumbling block is they had it in their mind that they needed to catch up to what Disney was doing with Marvel. And every decision that they've made since has been in that direction. And they have repeatedly failed. And then they have all these terrible casting choices that they stand by for some crazy reason. Ezra Miller. What? And they just keep doubling and tripling down. And then they keep remaking movies with someone else playing the character. And it's like, why are you... Why?
So we going here? Because I got an hour worth of...
No, like I feel like WB's problems just aren't, they're not just in the game studios. They're in all, like, wholeheartedly. It's in all of the decisions they're making in every angle. Every part of their company. Like, they're making some really questionable decisions. Because if there was ever a time to recast, Ezra Miller was it. But they didn't. But they're recast, like, how do you lose Henry Cavill?
All right, so
how?
This is where
how do we get there?
This is where I crossed the line. This is where I gotta speak.
No, go ahead. Like, it's fine, but like, it's a repeated issue. Like, we fall in love with characters, and then they change it, and they redo the movie, or they do an alternate universe, and it's too hard to keep up with. Marvel, everything is happening as part of one big story that fits. All the puzzle pieces fit together, but in the way that they're doing it with WB, with all the DC comic stuff, the puzzle pieces don't fit, because you've got this Joker, and then you have this Joker, and then you have this Joker, and then you have this Joker, and they're all different universes. And then here's all the different universes of Batman. And now here's the Suicide Squad doing this, but here's them also doing this. And it's like, you have to pick a timeline and stick with the timeline if you want to have a fluid story, and you're not. But
I'm so excited right now. I have no idea. Never did I think I would be talking about the DCEU here. But let's do this. We're here. So I mostly agree with you.
Fine.
I don't even know. I'm saying mostly because I feel like maybe there was something in there I disagree with, but I don't even care anymore. When it comes to, I 100% agree. They just fumbled the bag with this movie related stuff. Right now, today, I think that with James Gunn at the helm, there will be some type of consistency and they will do better. Now, I ain't gonna say they're gonna do phenomenal. I just, like, me myself, the Superman movie that's coming out, I'm interested in it. Yeah. I think it's looks great. Throwback to more older Superman comics. I like what I see so far. When the movie comes out, maybe it's a different story, but we'll see. Now I'm gonna upset some people. Anything that's related to the Snyderverse is garbage. I don't care who you are. Henry Cavill was a 10 out of 10 looking Superman with a 1 out of 10 story.
Just
so
crazy. He was Clark Kent. He was able to pull it off so well, and they destroyed it for no reason.
And then you hold those people out there who latch onto the Snyder cut of things. First and foremost, that first Justice League movie was horrible. We all know it was horrible. Now, with the power of revisionist history, you guys want me to believe that the Snyderverse version of the Justice League would have originally been what came out, and then y'all also want me to believe that y'all was going to sit in a theater, watch a 4-hour movie, almost 4-hour movie, and then you're like, you guys who were complaining and said we want this Snyderverse movie, half of you didn't even go and watch the whole thing because WB went out and said, you know what, let's prove a point that you guys didn't really care about this. I think at that time it was like it's only 40% of the people who started watching it finished the movie to the end, which proved the whole entire point. For one, I think everybody anything that has to do with the Snyderverse is fraud because y'all put Zack Snyder on his pedestal, and to me, all those movies that take place with his name attached to it was garbage. That Superman, the first Superman movie was okay. Superman, Man of Steel, it was okay. I think that's 7 out of 10 movie from there. But
and it's the person that played Superman that sold it more so than the story.
Batman v Superman sucked. Justice League sucked. Shazam, it's okay. Ain't horrible. It's okay. Wonder Woman, everybody loved the theme for Wonder Woman more than they actually loved those movies.
I actually really enjoyed the Wonder Woman movie, but it was more of like a look at all these strong ladies, I feel proud kind of thing.
The first Wonder Woman movie I thought was great. The second one was... I'll
be honest, I didn't watch the second one. By then, I had lost faith that DC was ever going to fix what they did.
So for me, right? Like I love both Marvel and DC, and I also agree. Like so for me, the Batman, the movie with Robert Pattinson, Mr. Twilight himself. I am a big fan of that movie. I love that movie. I love that movie maybe a little bit more than Christian Bale's Batman movies. I think
he took everybody by surprise in that role because I think everyone associated him with Twilight Vampire and not.
I was one of those people.
He was stuck for a long time.
When it was announced and I saw the trailer, I was like, you want me to believe Twilight guy is gonna be Batman? No. Then I saw the
Edward.
But
he's a sparkly vampire that plays baseball with his family. What do you mean?
Sat there and watched that movie. I think I watched that movie probably like 4 times back to back. I was like, yeah, this is a great movie.
He's several hundred years old, skating on 17-year-old girls. Is this elderly Drake? Crazy. He can't be Batman. Yeah, go ahead. That's Drake's original form. That's where he got it from.
The Drake part?
The Drake part, yeah. He's going to be several hundred years old, still scamming on 17-year-olds. Watch. Go ahead. Let's not. He likes to sue. Let's not. Go ahead. You might want to cut out that part.
But yeah. So yeah, like when it comes to the movie front, it's like, and also like you said, it can be confusing for the casual viewer.
And you need the casual viewers. If you lose the casual viewers, there's not enough hardcore followers for you to really make the money you're looking for.
And that's why, like, even though they recasted Henry Cavill as Superman, I, for one, was happy with the decision just because I felt like we needed to move forward. I like Henry Cavill. There's nothing against him, but it was just perfect. Yeah, he was a perfect Superman. But if we're gonna move forward, I think everything needed to go. We need to start fresh, and that's what James Gunn, except for John Cena, appears to be doing.
John Cena.
Peacemaker.
You can't even see him, so it's fine.
That's what I'm saying.
Can't even see him. Who's playing that character? I don't see a person. Sorry,
it's just a floating helmet. But yeah, pretty much. I think that's where I stand with DC, at least the EU, and then like you said, the video game stuff. Even right now, it kind of feels like they're falling back on just simply what they know works. They're going back to. They know Harry Potter did well, so they're most likely going to lean into more Harry Potter games. Now they're going back to making another Batman game for Rocksteady. So, I mean, they kind of seem just to be going back to, we're going to just go to what we know works.
But here's the problem with that. That worked when it came out. Going back to what worked isn't always a solid path forward. because what worked back then might not work now. I know there's a lot more people now that are a little bit more anti-Harry Potter because the creator of the world of Harry Potter has become a bigger and bigger monster as time has gone on. So I think that always falling back on that this worked when we did it might not necessarily pull them out of the hole that they're in.
It's
hard.
It's a weird place, yeah. But it's even when I can't remember Hogwarts Legacy, the controversy that surrounded that game with the author, that when that game dropped, but it still sold so well. Kind of feel like that said everything they needed to know about how people felt about like Harry Potter as a franchise. So I was like, the vocal minority was really loud on that one. I mean, but Harry Potter is a weird.
Yeah, Harry Potter has a very large fandom. And there are some people that are like, okay, I'll just pretend she didn't write it and keep playing it or whatever, consume it, or they'll tell themselves she doesn't get that much of it, or they'll tell themselves if they buy it secondhand, it's not really putting the money in her pocket. So people find a lot of weird rationale for why they do it. It is what it is. Yeah, you're right. People will buy games regardless, but I think that gaming companies need to stop leaning on this worked before and start finding new ways to innovate that isn't microtransactions.
Yes, 100%.
Do something we haven't seen before and we'll buy your games. Give us a fresh story. You don't have to keep leaning on the old ones. Give us something new. We'll buy it, so long as it's good. That's the hard part, is that it has to be good. And we'll get so many trailers of like, oh, this game looks great, and then people actually start playing it and they're like, actually, they showed us the only good parts about it, and that trailer was only 30 seconds, so there's really nothing else. Like, don't even.
Moving a little bit forward, Fable got delayed.
It did, but I will say, even though it's gotten pushed back from 2025 to 2026, that little bit of gameplay footage we saw, I think it was like around 40-ish seconds, looks incredible. And if they're taking this next year to build out a world that looks like that, and I mean the sword, I believe they showed one-handed sword fighting, two-handed fighting, and like fighting with a hammer. Like, if the game looks like that now, pre-alpha, they're saying it's pre-alpha, I'm excited. Like, I'll wait. Like, I'm always okay with, if you're going to delay the game, but it's worth it, cool. Like, there's so many games that came out that really should have been pushed back again and polished before they came out because it ruined their reputation. I think Cyberpunk is a great example of that. Had they pushed it back and gotten it right the first time, they wouldn't have had to do all this extra stuff on the back end to regain everyone's trust. They did that, and I appreciate it, but I would have rather waited for, however long, like another 6 months, and had a game I could play at launch instead of a game I had to come back to when they patched it. So I don't know. After seeing the gameplay footage, go ahead, push it back. Let it be beautiful, because it looks gorgeous and it's going to be an incredible game. And you don't want them to pull, and I think maybe this is part of why they're doing this, you don't want them to pull a Dragon Age. This game that has this rich history with this hardcore fandom, you don't want to drop a game that's going to disappoint. Because we saw how hard Dragon Age fell flat, and as we've discussed it, like it got a lot of hate that it didn't really necessarily deserve, but you don't want to do that. And I think that's game companies are maybe being more careful about these really beloved franchises. And that's why I feel like Mass Effect is going to take forever, because they know if they don't get it just right, it's another Dragon Age. And they can't afford that after how they hurt our feelings at the end of 3, and then how they hurt our feelings again with Andromeda, because so many people hated that game. I didn't. I actually enjoyed Andromeda, but a lot of people did not like the direction they went in with that. When you have a beloved franchise, you have to do it right, or you have to spend so much extra work trying to build back up that trust to get them to buy anything else from you after that point.
And I feel like because this is coming from Microsoft, it is also a big deal.
Extra eyes.
Yeah, I feel personally, I'm happy with the delay, because if this would have been delayed maybe last year, no, I would say 2 years ago, because Microsoft was in this weird place of not really having much going on, but that's really turned around since it probably would have been a lot bigger deal than this. But they still have a whole bunch of games coming out this year, so I kind of felt like, you know what, if you were going to delay it, you know, you can, because we still have Ninja Gaiden 4 that's supposed to be coming out this year. I'm not sure if it has a date, but Outer Worlds 2 is coming out. Doom: The Dark Ages, South of Midnight. So, you know, all those games are still like on the horizon for this year. And then you also still have the whole bunch of stuff that doesn't have a date yet. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think Elder Scrolls 6 is the number. That game's never coming out. And then we got Perfect Dark, which exists out there. I think they had a Blade game that was also announced that, you know, in the works. So, you know, even though it's a delay, you know, I have a love for Fable. Personally, I think Fable 2 is the best. Yeah, I'm like, I love what I saw with the two I think it's been 2 or 3 trailers that have come out, aside from the little pre-alpha footage that they just dropped. And just world-wise, I love what I was seeing. I mean,
it has to be done right. Fable is a very story-driven game. If you don't give me a good story, I'm going to be pissed. So you got to do it right.
Yep. And then we're just going to link these two together, you know, the vocal minority with women in games, and, you know, how women must look in games, you know, so.
I know. Like, so, and I feel like this is going to endlessly happen. You're always going to have that vocal minority, and Ciri being the main character, the main protagonist on the new Witcher game is the best example I can think of with that. There's always going to be this group of people that are very loud and very questionable in their opinions. And I say questionable because when a woman looks like an adult woman, they seem to have a lot of problems with this. And it seemed like a lot of the complaints about Ciri was that she looked old because she's a grown-up. There's a lot of weird complaints about how they would rather look at Geralt the whole time while they're playing, which is really odd because, I mean, if you like men, that's okay, but like, you could still play as a girl character. Like, that's not going to make you straight. I mean, that can't be taught. So if that's a weird hill to die on. But I think we're always going to come back to this conversation. It's endless. I have been playing video games since I was a little girl. Literally. Like, I was maybe 5 when a controller was first placed in my hand and I started playing games. I played video games my entire life. Guess how many times I got to play a female character when I was a little kid? Like, I can't even remember any games where I got to play a female character. Most of them were male characters. Now we're starting to get games that cover a whole gamut of a variety of minorities, which is a whole different thing, because the way that Latinos are portrayed in literally everything is always one of 2 ways, and it's never a good way. Like, they're either in prison or they're doing things outside of prison that's going to land them in prison, which is crazy to me because there's no representation for me. And then there's every woman that's somehow in a game story is always like some object of the male character's desire, and she has to be sexy and smart, but not too smart, and dumb. She has to be a little dumb. That's what just needy enough. She needs him for something. She's just a little helpless, so she can't do anything for herself. And it's like, then you have a character like Ciri who's out here like saving lives, fighting monsters by herself, which we've played as her before in the other Witcher games. I don't know how you played Witcher 3 and didn't think to yourself, Geralt's getting kind of old and we're playing as Ciri a little bit here. Did you really not connect those dots? Because I feel like the playing with Ciri in that game was probably like a warm-up to, like, he's passing off the baton to her. And if you've ever gone through the original short stories, like, he does eventually retire. He has a very rare end. Like, they don't really go through to his death, but like, he actually retires from being a Witcher, which is rare. Most Witchers die as a Witcher. He actually retires and tries to have like a normal life. Also, if you got to the end of the other game, this was one of the canon endings, that she chooses to be a Witcher. Like this is one of the endings you can get. They made it canon. My bad. I gotta walk back what I said. They made this the canon ending. She doesn't go on to become the queen. She ends up being a Witcher. That was how the game ended. So if you chose that ending, like, what did you think was gonna happen in part 3? We were just gonna forget that part 2 happened?
As a person who doesn't play The Witcher, even I knew that Ciri was, being groomed for that role, I guess you can say.
And everybody's like, oh, but she couldn't have gone through the trial of the grasses. She's magical. Maybe she didn't need to, or maybe they found a safer way to do it. Who knows? We don't have the game in hand to know what happened in that time period, because realistically, at the end of part 2, she was still fairly young when she decides to become a Witcher. So we don't know like what's happened in there. We don't know if they're going to say, hey, this real life time period that passed is going to be the in-game time period that passed. We don't know, because it was a long time ago when Witcher 3 came out. Mm-hmm. So can we just get the game and not complain about what kind of genitals the protagonist has and just enjoy the story? That's my one request. Can we just stop complaining? Or, just don't buy it.
Oh,
be bored. I don't know.
This week's particular controversy was hilarious because they released a trailer, just a behind the scenes trailer for breaking down the first trailer that came out. And I guess somebody on Twitter was like, oh, look, they changed the character model because they heard us all complaining about how Ciri doesn't look attractive. And then the developer responded to it and was like, no, we did not change the character model. So everybody's just like on this thing like, yes, I did, but if you just watch the trailer, it's like he said, the lighting that you're watching in this new thing is different from what the final thing looks. So if you want to say she looks different, it's because there's a different either camera angle or different lighting to it.
It's more polishing that's happened between when that came out and when this happened.
Mm-hmm.
But first of all, this isn't Sonic. Like, she was never unattractive. You just are into things that are probably too young for you.
They like Stellar Blade.
Which I feel like you should find out if your interests are something that would lead you to jail time, maybe. And then very quickly report to the nearest prison so they can lock you up before you hurt somebody. Because that's weird. It's very weird energy. Like, women age too. It's not just men. Women are also allowed to age, and she has scars. Yes, she fights monsters. So did Geralt. Nobody complained about Geralt's scars. So I don't know. Here's my tip of the day. If you don't like female-led games, don't buy them. Be miserable by yourself in your basement, looking at man butts.
Such a hard thing to do.
We're not here to judge.
If you don't like a game, just don't buy it. I don't know why that's so hard to do.
Yeah, it's the world. The world is full of drakes with big mouths.
Mm-hmm. I saw a creator, I forget if it was YouTube or TikTok, basically saying that the problem with games today is that there's a lot of people out there who have opinions on games that don't even actually play games, and then their opinions are so loud that people just adopt those opinions.
Which is crazy to me. We don't even have a story. No one's played the game yet, and y'all are complaining. The game didn't come out. Can the game come out and you play it for a few hours before you start complaining about it? God. Mm-hmm. Is that really so much to ask? I feel like that should be like a metric now. If you're going to review a game, you have to play it for like at least 10% of the campaign. If you can get through 10% of the game, then I'll listen to your opinion. If I see a game review and it doesn't say I've played at least X amount of hours of the game, I'm just not even going to watch it, because your opinion doesn't matter. If you can't say I beat this game or I played X amount of hours on this game before I did this review, like, your opinion doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Just keep it to yourself.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people on the TikTok who opinions that I love when you say I don't like this game, but then you tell me why. You don't just say I don't like it.
It's right? Not even that.
Actually give me realistic opinions of why you don't like it, right?
But it's not even just that. Like, people, I think we live in a really weird world where people decide them disliking something means that it's terrible. Mm-hmm. When really, there's always a possibility that your opinion just sucks. Just because you don't like something or you don't understand something doesn't mean there's something wrong with it. Sometimes that means there's something wrong with you, or sometimes it means it just wasn't going to work for you to begin with. That's okay. It's okay to like different things from people. It's also okay to say, hey, I don't like this because I don't understand it. Don't say I hate it and it's terrible because you don't understand it. That's a comprehension issue on your end that you should probably work out. I'm getting off my soapbox now. I feel like I've been on there for a while today.
On to the next topic. Indie games. Yay!
Indie games, yes. So So on my stream last week, I got the pleasure of playing 2 different indie games. One of them was The Cabin Factory, which I actually got through all the different versions of the cabins on that game, so I actually got both of the endings on it. And I thought that was really cool. It's a horror game. You have cabins that come in on a conveyor belt. You have to run into the cabin. If anything in the cabin moves at all, it's haunted. You got to run out, hope you don't die, and hit the button. It's danger. If you go in and nothing moves around, then it's safe. And it was really cool because I actually did a lot of background research on it, because when I see a story about something, I need to understand it. The character that you play is an older woman named Greta. And the house that you're going into, the cabins, the hauntings, are her family. It's her mother, her father, her, and her little brother. And you get to see the background of her story, which I don't really want to get too deep into, just in case someone does want to play the game. Because it's $2.99 on Steam, cheap but beautiful, and I feel like for the money I paid, it was well worth it. But it was a really interesting game because you got her story while also at moments getting the crap scared out of you, which is kind of fun. So yeah, I really enjoyed that game, and I think like we're in a day and age where indie games are finding new and different ways to either get funding for their games. And they're also coming up with ideas that we've never seen before, which is incredible. I think that once we start getting away from like studios like WB that keep going back to what worked at one point in time, and we allow space for other people to innovate, we get some really incredible results. And I think the other game that I really enjoyed playing, and I actually have been playing the pre-alpha version of it, is Billy Bust Up. Is it Billy Bust Up or is it Bust Up Billy? I think it's Billy Bust Up. It's a little goat. It's in a pre-alpha version, and he's like running through these worlds, fighting these really awesome monsters. But the thing I love the most about this game is it's very cartoony. It's a billy goat named Billy and his fox named Oscar, and they're like narrowly escaping danger left and right, but everything is musical. So I was playing through a portion of the game that they titled A Million Ways to Die. It's a boss fight. And there's the catchiest song that, like, I played it, and I'm fairly certain that everybody probably had that song stuck in their head for a solid 24 hours.
I definitely did.
Yeah, and it's a very detailed, very fun fight. Like, there's a lot of jumping and synchronization to the rhythm of the music, and all these different little artistic pieces just flying everywhere. And it's just like, how are they funding this game? Patreon.
Before there might be a clip of the game on screen. It is pre-alpha.
Yes, it's pre-alpha. So remember, it is pre-alpha. We get pieces to stream. So they're using Patreon. You can go to their Patreon. You can sign up. There's like 3 different levels. There's a $1 level, a $5 level, and a $10 level. I'm subscribed to the $10 level, which like I get to have my name in the credits. It's like a Patreon supporter and stuff. And this entitles me to being able to play the chunks of the game and see a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And I feel like this is a really innovative way for indie companies to get funded, build up a following for the game before launch, and essentially get free advertising. Because now you're saying, okay, here's chunks of the game, you can stream it. And there's nothing a streamer likes more than exclusivity. Oh, you're telling me this is something not many other people have? Cool, I got it. So it was a really fun way to do it. And I think that that's so smart. It's just like, you know, all these different companies on Steam with their early access games. People are willing to pay for early access to a game and being able to have some kind of input into what the future of that game looks like, being able to point out the issues, any ideas they think they might have that'll make the game better by the time it comes out to release. I think Phasmophobia is a great example of that. That game's been in early access for, I want to say, like 4 years. They just now dropped on console, and they're still continuously adding to the game. They're adding maps, they're adding different behaviors for the ghosts, like they're still adding to the game. And I think that that's so freaking smart, because I think indie games are the future. Indie games where we're going to see the new stuff.
I believe the most notable of the early access, I won't say the best because I'm not sure about that, but I believe it's still Baldur's Gate 3. Right?
Which,
because that's the one everybody
incredible
was
game.
So.
Incredible game. I've played through that a few times. Hundreds of hours of my life have gone into that game. And it's amazing. But these are things that wouldn't be funded without those early access games, with the early access people buying into it, giving their input. Like, indie games are the future, truly.
And that's why I enjoy like the only one that comes to mind right now is ID at Xbox, like their little showcase, and Steam just did a showcase too, of just pretty much focusing on a whole bunch of indie games and just saying, hey, like these exist, giving them the recognition that they probably wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So when like I wish back in the golden years of Xbox, when they used to do summer, the golden years, when they used to do summer of arcade, that was a fun time. When just summer, they used to have that's when Xbox Live Arcade used to exist, and it was just pretty much a whole bunch of indie games that was in there on sale all the time throughout the summer, and that was a fun time. That was a great time. It's not as like ID at Xbox is great, but I believe that summer gaming that they used to do on Xbox Live Arcade was even better than what they do now. It's still great that they give people this recognition, but we could go back in time. Since we're talking about it, hey, Xbox, you should just bring back 1 versus 100. I'm just saying, but that's a different topic for a different day.
I don't know. Either way, I'm looking forward to a world where more indie game companies are using all of these different avenues to make their games. Like, if I like what you're doing, I will throw my money at it. We'll get it funded, because we can't let EA take over everything. And I'm really happy for any game that gives me a way to play all of it without having to spend money on microtransactions. Like, give me a fully fledged game, I'll pay for it early. I don't care. It's like, let me add it. Just no microtransactions, please. Keep those to yourself.
I think that's everything. On that note, I believe we're good for today. We had a solid, nice episode. It was fun. We roasted a lot of people. Got a lot of stuff off our chest today. It was a very enlightening experience.
So, from me and John here at the Chaos Within podcast, we want to remind you to go ahead through your weekend embracing the chaos within. Let your inner petty out. Who cares what other people think at this point, right? They're going to be mad anyway. Give them a reason. Bye, everybody.
Later.